Alright, here's the deal. In the last few weeks, we learned Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh actually had a Ben Solo movie, The Hunt for Ben Solo, ready to go.
So falls the last Skywalker.
And Disney binned it because, well, they couldn't see a believable way for Ben to still be alive after the rise of Skywalker. And then, almost on cue, Star Wars drops a news story where Kylo Ren does something that no Jedi or Sith has ever done in canon. He walks straight into the Jedi Afterlife while he's still alive, confronts Luke Skywalker in the Netherworld of the Force, and gets blasted back to the land of the living. So here's my question. If Kylo Ren's already broken in once, did this story just hand Lucasfilm the perfect, lore-friendly way to bring Ben Solo back? Today we're digging into exactly what happened, why the afterlife we see isn't just a vision, and how this gate could be the missing mechanic that fixes the Ben Solo problem. By the end of this video, you'll know whether this is a genuine path back for Ben, or just a cool one-off.
Did you come back to say you forgive me? To save my soul?
Before we jump in, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop some hype points. It helps the channel out massively. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive in.
See you around, kid.
Right, before we dive into theories and timelines, to make sense of all this Jedi Afterlife talk, we need to take a look at the latest issue of Star Wars Legacy of Vader, which is a part of the official canon. Now, we follow Kylo Ren at the exact point in the saga where he's the Supreme Leader, parked in Vader's castle on Mustafar. So we're between episodes 8 and 9. He won the last battle on paper, but he can't shake a presence in the Force. Luke's dead. But he isn't gone, and Kylo, not the type to tolerate being watched. He wants control, he wants Luke on his terms, and he wants a final word he can actually win. Now that obsession sends him to Vinay. Yeah, somehow still alive, and somehow even more put together now with spare parts, looking for Vader's method of pulling someone into his presence. That spooky vault that chooses who can enter won't open for him, which stings, so Vinay pushes him to a different tool, Vader's meditation chamber.
General, prepare your troops for a surface attack.
Kylo seals himself inside and doesn't meditate so much as weaponize the Force, calling on his grandfather to bring Luke to him. He quickly finds himself through a vision in a nightmare swamp. Chains, bones, bodies. The dark side manifesting his guilt as warped echoes of the people he's failed. He's dragged under, snaps, and fights back with red and blue sabers together, literally swinging both halves of his legacy at his own conscience. It's raw, it's ugly, and crucially it isn't where Luke is. This is just about Kylo. Now, once he reframes Luke in his head, warrior, teacher, seeker, a spark that spread across the galaxy, the vision sheds its skin. He steps into a stone valley before a stone gate flooding white light, with luminous figures drifting through, Jedi spirits. One approaches, recoils at the darkness rolling off him, and when Kylo tries the usual lightsaber solution, the blade slips through like mist. The spirit says this realm doesn't allow for that, and more importantly, he shouldn't be there at all. Funny question to keep in the back of your mind as we move forward: if the afterlife judges who belongs, what does it do with someone who barges in? Anyways, the other figures turn and the mood tightens, and then a voice settles everything. The Jedi part and Luke Skywalker steps forward, composed, completely himself. The spirits warn him about the intensity of Kylo's pain. Luke takes responsibility and walks to meet him with that dry, Luke-ish ease. And that's where the real conversation begins. Not a vision Kylo controls, but a realm with rules of its own, ready to decide what happens to him next. Now, this isn't just another Kylo-centric head trip. There are other presences here, moving with purpose. It reads like Community, where Jedi spirits exist when they're not appearing to the living. And that first encounter spells it out. This realm has rules. If it were just another vision, it would bend around Kylo. Instead, it resists him. And we've brushed up against ideas like this before, but never quite in this way. Yoda's journey in the Clone Wars is about learning how to join this place after death, not strolling into it while your heart's still beating.
Manifest a consciousness which will allow you to commune with the living.
The world between worlds is a different beast. Time, echoes, knowledge, not a shared afterlife with residence and etiquette. This valley is new ground, and it behaves like somewhere real, and the route Kylo takes matters. He weaponizes Vader's meditation chamber and leans hard into the dark side, survives a spiritual trap, and then pushes through into a space that isn't his. That's the headline. Canon now shows a living Force user forcing entry in what looks like the Jedi Afterlife. The interesting part isn't punishment, it's compatibility. This place clearly accepts some energies and rejects others, which quietly raises a bigger idea. If brute force can pry the door one way, could guidance open it safely the other?
One who has returned from the netherworld of the Force.
Hold that thought because Luke's arrival is about to make that possibility feel a lot less hypothetical. And for me, it's the timing. Just weeks after we heard Disney didn't buy a believable pathway for Ben Solo beyond The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars drops a canon story where Ben Solo, or Kylo Ren, actually crosses into the Jedi Afterlife while still alive, faces Luke there and then gets slammed back into his own body. That quietly changes the rules. The wall between life and the Netherworld isn't a brick barricade. Under the right conditions, it does open. Which instantly begs the question, if a door does exist, then who's actually allowed to open it properly? And who's actually waiting on the other side?
Strike me down in anger and I'll always be with you.
Now carry that forward to Ben. If his spirit's in that same place after episode 9, this issue hands Lucasfilm a way to run the journey in reverse without loopholes or somehows. It's the same gate, just guided instead of brute force. Like, just imagine the emotional weight if Luke and Leia are there to meet him. Would they help him because, well, maybe he wouldn't have died an exegol if it wasn't for Kylo Ren putting him in that situation in the first place?
I know my son's gone.
No one's ever really gone.
And here's the tease for what's next. The how gets clearer when you listen to what Luke tells Kylo in the realm. There's a single line that turns this from a cool idea to a plan you can actually film. And so yeah, here's where the whole thing flips from spectacle to character. Kylo doesn't come here looking for wisdom. He comes here to settle a score. In his head, freight was a robbery. He was ready for the big finish and Luke slipped away, and only later did he feel Luke die. So he wants answers, and if he can't have the kill, well, then he wants the story. Who did it? How much did he suffer? Is there any way Kylo can still put a win on the board? But Luke just drains all of the poison out of that. No one killed him, it was a choice, a sacrifice, and he turns it straight back on Kylo with the most uncomfortable question in the room. If my life was about protecting other people, what is your life actually for? Now Rey inevitably comes up and Kylo snaps into that jealousy we all expected. Why her? And Luke gives him the simplest, most brutal answer possible, because she wanted to learn and he didn't.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
No prophecy, no riddle, just mirror. And then Luke does the thing that matters for everything we're talking about today. He separates the mask from the man. Kylo Ren means nothing to him, Ben Solo does. So from inside this afterlife, Luke basically plants a flag and says, I'll be there for Ben. If the Netherworld has rules, that sounds like one of them. But yeah, the tragic part is Kylo can't take any of it in. He lashes out, tells Luke to stop watching him, threatens to find a way to destroy him even there. And that's when the realm itself pushes back and Kylo slams into his body, torn up by a fight he didn't technically win. And the emotional consequence is pretty clear. Kylo comes for dominance and leaves with nothing but a bruise to his ego, while Ben, who barely gets to speak for himself, walks away with advocates on the other side.
You'll take both sabers to Exegol.
And that's the tease for where we're heading next, because once you hear Luke say it out loud, the how of a return stops feeling like fan fiction and starts feeling like a plan that someone could actually follow. So let's talk about how a return could actually work without breaking canon. If Ben's spirit is in the same valley we just saw, surrounded by people who love him, the simplest version is guidance instead of brute force. Kylo kicked the door in and got spat back out. Ben wouldn't need to. With Luke there, with Leia too, why couldn't they walk him to the threshold and let the gate open? Because yeah, there's also the dyad. We've already watched Rey and Ben pass a lightsaber across locations, heal, and literally bridge matter through their mind. That connection still hums after 9. Rey can be the anchor in the living world. The fixed point that pulls Ben through while Luke and Leia steady him on the other side. Imagine the visual. Rey reaching into the light, Luke guiding from within. Leia's hand on Ben's shoulder. If that moment exists, who actually gives the final go? The living or the Force itself? And if you're worried about undoing his sacrifice, you don't need a forever fix.
I did want to take your hand. Ben's hand.
You could even make it purpose-bound, a return with rules. A threat rises, Ben is called back to help resolve what Kylo's choices set in motion. Something like that, but if they did bring him back, it would most likely be permanent. Now, I'm not saying Lucasfilm is doing this next year or anything like that. I'm saying the mechanism exists now, on the page in canon. The valley, the gate, the river of spirits, it's all there, and it fits what Luke just said about Ben. And so here's the tease before we land this. If Luke can be there for Ben always, what does always look like when a door between worlds finally opens the right way? And if it really is that simple, guidance, an anchor, the Force's permission, then the only question left is whether the saga has the courage to take it. Alright, cards on the table. This issue does two massive things at once. It shows Kylo Ren literally forcing his way into the Jedi Afterlife while he's still alive, and it gives Lucasfilm a clean, lore-friendly way if they ever wanted to bring Ben Solo back. I'm not saying they should hit the big red button tomorrow, but the mechanism isn't fan fiction anymore. It's on the page. Now, I actually like where Ben's story lands in Episode 9. It mirrors Anakin in all the right ways. Ben follows his grandfather's shadow for years, serving darkness, powering a new empire in all but name, and then at the end he breaks the cycle. Where Anakin couldn't save Padme, Ben saves Rey, and pays with his life. That's a beautiful closing beat for the Skywalker saga in my opinion, but the question is, does Star Wars have to be one or the other? Personally, I think the franchise thrives when it lets the Skywalkers exist alongside stories like Andor and The Mandalorian. We don't need the family to carry every plot, but we also don't have to lock the door on them forever. If they ever did bring Ben back, this is the only route I'd probably take seriously. A 1 in a million alignment that honours his sacrifice rather than erasing it. And it fits with something Star Wars has hinted at since Obi-Wan's voice in the Trench Run.
Use the Force, Luke.
The netherworld of the Force has always been part of the tapestry. We've just never really walked around inside it on screen. And we know George always planned to explore that more, so maybe now it's time to do it properly. So here's my last thought, and I'm genuinely curious what you think. If the saga could open that door just once, for the right reason, would you want it to? Or should Ben's final moment stay exactly where it is? As always, drop your thoughts, theories and wilder speculation down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our deep dive into what really happened to Luke Skywalker during his final moments on Arc 2. There's a lot in there you don't see by watching the movie alone. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and may the Force be with you.